Hello, and welcome to Unknowable, the podcast where we talk about all things mysterious, unusual, or unknowable. I'm Justine.
And I'm Gray. Some weeks we break down one larger mystery between the two of us. Other weeks we pick two smaller mysteries on a theme and teach each other about them based on our own independent research.
This week, we are kind of doing a last episode before we take a week hiatus.
Yeah, almost like a season one, but we're not going with seasons, so
Exactly.
We'll be back on the 30th
Yep.
of January with a new episode. So
Episode
there'll
14.
be a week gap.
Yep.
And we're just going to use it to kind of clean up our production and
Yeah. Retool.
figure some stuff out.
Get a Patreon going.
Yep.
Finally.
Try to get some merchandise.
Yep. If you guys have any ideas for merch that you want, let us know.
Right?
Get that going. Get the website finally caught up with show notes, which I keep promising.
Right.
I've got 3 episodes on there, I swear.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. But, yeah, so this is episode 13.
Episode 13.
We're talking about the Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter.
Yes, a very famous,
Very famous.
very interesting.
Very well known for a couple reasons. So, I'm, surprised doing research on some topics how many weird things happened in the 50s.
Yeah, the 50s were a strange time.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure it was the first full decade after World War II,
Yeah.
which, depending on your perspective, maybe us dropping the atomic bombs alerted the universe to our presence
Shit.
as a spacefaring species,
I did not even think about that.
right? So there's a lot of people who think that, us dropping the bombs and testing the bombs was kind of what brought people, or not people, but extraterrestrials
Yeah.
to this planet,
Beings.
right? I mean,
Shit.
Roswell happened in 1947, 2 years after we dropped the bomb.
Damn.
Just
Think
saying.
about that.
What's 2 light years away? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
Something.
Bro, some shit.
Yeah, something.
Damn. Well, this was 1955
Yep.
in Kentucky. Roughly.
Kelly-Hopkinsville.
Yeah, Kelly, 2 different towns, Kelly and Hopkinsville.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it was just one with a hyphen.
No, it's Kelly-Hopkinsville because I believe the encounter happened in Kelly and the police station was in Hopkinsville.
Oh, that makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, so it's both. It's, if you're not familiar with Kentucky, which I am not, I don't even really know where Louisville is in Kentucky, geographically, but I know it's there. But these towns are about 160 miles southwest of
Okay.
Louisville, so
I think Louisville might be across the river from Cincinnati.
I have no idea.
Me neither.
It could be.
I shouldn't talk about things I have no idea. I think, but I'm not sure.
Don't know much about Kentucky, but this was there. And yeah, it's considered to be one of the most significant and well-documented cases in the history of UFO incidents.
Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising.
Right.
Really.
It's one that I don't feel like I had heard about until I really started doing a deep dive into UFO mythology.
Yeah.
But when you really start to get into it, you start to see why. If it is what it purports to be, then it's a pretty wild encounter.
Right. My dog has been quietly laying on the rug until we started, and now she's clicking her way around the hardwood floor. So
Of course she is.
if you hear that, that's what it is. So August 21st,
Yes.
1955.
1955.
Early evening.
Okay. About 7 p.m.
Yep, about 7 p.m. There's a farmhouse in Kelly, Kentucky. Kind of seemingly in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods. There's a farmhouse with about 12 people in it.
The Sutton family?
Yep, the Sutton family, and then some friends of theirs, I guess. So there's a mother, Glennie. There's a few small children. There's 2 sons of Glennie's from a previous marriage, which is Elmer, who's known as Lucky Sutton, and John Charlie J.C. Sutton. So Lucky and J.C.
Classic.
Classic. And then their wives, Vera and Aline. Aline's brother, O.P., is there. And then a couple other friends who apparently, I think a couple of these people worked for a local circus, which is just seems like an odd thing, but
Hey.
okay. I think this dude, Billy Ray Taylor, worked for the circus, and maybe O.P. did too. And then Billy Ray's wife, June, was there. So, house was full of people.
Yeah. That's a lot of people for a farmhouse.
Yeah. Just chilling there. So Billy Ray Taylor goes out to get water from the well, and he sees... One of the things I read even just said that he was out there refilling his water cup.
Yeah.
He wasn't even
Water
getting a
cup.
whole bunch of water for the house. He was just oh, finish my water, gotta go get a refill.
It's
Went out to the well.
different times back then.
Yeah.
So did they not have indoor plumbing?
I don't know.
That's wild.
Mid-50s in Kentucky.
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Sure. So he says that he saw a bright light streak across the sky and disappeared kind of beyond the tree line a little bit away from the house.
Right.
One of the other things described it also as him specifically seeing a round metallic object with rainbow-colored streaks trailing behind it. So he goes back in the house to tell people, like, dude, I just saw some shit.
Right.
And apparently everybody just laughed him off.
As you would,
yeah,
I feel like.
As most people probably would. Like, they literally just thought it was a prank. They were like, haha, okay. Which seems like maybe he's the type of guy that would have done that.
Right.
So, yeah, nobody's really taking him seriously.
Classic Billy Ray.
Classic Billy Ray. And then shortly after that, the family starts hearing some weird noises and, like, some dogs start barking outside. So Billy Ray and Lucky go out to check it out, and they see a creature.
Yes.
Floating around.
Right. So they have legs.
Yeah.
But not to use. They're like floating or hovering above the ground.
Yeah.
With their legs just kind of dangling limp.
Yeah.
I think I saw some described it as like their legs were like useless.
Exactly.
Which
yeah,
is
like
weird.
emaciated.
Yeah.
But their top halves were muscular. Right. Which is just creepy.
Why is there always descriptions of muscular beings?
I know.
Like Mothman's legs?
Mothman's legs were muscular.
It's strange.
Wow, we're like, this is good. We're coming full circle. Right? Episode 1 with muscular legs, and now we've got muscular tops. So just put the top of one of these goblins on the bottom of Mothman, and you've got a really disproportionately muscular cryptid of some kind.
That
alien,
no
I don't
sense.
even know.
Yeah, who knows?
So,
but yeah, you describe them
legs.
as goblins, and that's kind of like if you look up a drawing of them, they look like a goblin, like this weird little like thing with antennas.
Yep.
Got like long
kind of,
spindly fingers,
pointy ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, big weird eyes that like glowed or reflected yellow is what it said, which is also kind of a flashback to Mothman, because Mothman kind of had those red eyes.
Yeah, that's true.
That people weren't sure if they were glowing independently or if they just reflected light.
Right.
So, similar, but just yellow.
Right.
But yeah, these creatures are also referred to as the Kelly-Hopkinsville goblins.
Right.
For that reason, because they resemble little goblins.
Right. And little fun fact, the Pokemon
Yes.
Sableye.
I found that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was based on the Kelly-Hopkinsville goblins. And
also, like, his, like, sort of gait in the game, the way he walks is, like, supposed to be based on how they move around, too.
Floating.
Which is kind of cool.
It's wild.
Yeah. So, yeah, they see this creature kind of floating around. Funny enough, too, they described it as having its arms up kind of like in surrender. Which I think is interesting. So they ran inside, slammed the door. They're like, holy shit.
What the fuck was that?
Yeah, what the hell was that? So it said around the same time, a neighbor about a quarter mile away noticed lights in the woods behind the farmhouse. So they saw this creature come out of the wood line in the back of the house. These neighbors assumed that the family was, like, searching for one of their pigs that had gotten loose. So I was a little unclear on that. Like, it didn't say specifically, did these guys go out with flashlights? I would assume that they had flashlights. Right. Did the neighbors see their flashlights? Or was this a connection to supposedly them seeing this flying saucer?
Right.
Did the neighbors see lights?
Well, because the flying saucer was described as going over the farmhouse and into the woods, right?
Right.
So it could have potentially landed in the woods in like a clearing or something, and they were seeing the lights either from the UFO itself or from the little goblins.
Exactly.
Using whatever light source goblin aliens use.
Right. Like, I was not really clear on that.
Right.
At first, I was like, oh shit, that's crazy. But then I was like, wait, maybe they were just searching, you know, they heard weird noises, they brought some flashlights outside. I don't know. It wasn't clear.
Right.
So, kind of a fun, mysterious detail.
Right.
So, Taylor and Lucky are kind of like standing guard at the front and back doors, like guns in hand.
Right, because it's like rural Kentucky, and of course they have a shit ton of guns.
Yes, they've got so many guns. Like, I'm just imagining them going to, like, the gun closet and picking out whatever.
Here we go, Billy Ray.
Yeah, let's do this. So, yeah, so Taylor is guarding one of the doors, and like a roughly 3 foot tall creature appears in the doorway that he's standing at, which this is the mother, Glennie, was standing with him. She was like the most skeptical of the bunch. That was like, come on guys, like, you're just messing around. Like, she literally thought they were playing a prank on the wives, trying to like pull one over on them. But then she also saw it, and so she screamed, and he took a shot through the door at this creature. It said that he stepped out onto the porch because he was kind of like which I don't know if I would do that, but he was curious. Stepped onto the porch, and he felt a clawed hand reach down from the roof and graze his hair.
It's wild. See, like, the physical interaction is what's
Yeah.
wild. It's not just like he saw something. He felt something.
Yeah, he felt something. So I think his wife, or maybe the other guy's wife, pulled him back in, and then Lucky went out and shot at the creature on the roof, which he said rolled off and went into the woods, seemingly unharmed.
Right. Yeah,
There's a lot of, like, rolling and floating in this story.
And
they don't move normally.
they were all supposedly impervious to bullets.
Yeah. They did not seem to be affected by being shot.
Right.
Really unclear if these guys were just terrible shots or if they were hitting them and it just wasn't doing anything.
Exactly.
Who knows?
They they're like, I hit him dead in his chest, and it was like 30 feet to the left.
Right. Like, it's a 3-foot tall creature who's maybe like floating around, so who knows?
Right.
So, yeah. JC, one of the other guys, shot at a pair of glowing eyes and talons that appeared in the living room window. And then Taylor took another shot after him. Apparently the creature backflipped and took off running towards the woods.
Which I wasn't clear. So did it backflip as in like the force of the bullet impact caused it to do a backflip or encourage it to do a backflip? Or did it get hit with the bullet and then just did a backflip for fun and then ran away?
Yeah, exactly. I get the impression, like, even these creatures, it was kind of weird because these creatures were compared to gremlins.
Right.
But then referred to as goblins, although I feel like gremlins and goblins are similar.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're both kind of mischievous.
Yeah, the idea of like not so serious, like
they're
just kind of like fucking around.
Right.
I saw this described as like almost like a carnival game or almost like like whack-a-mole kind of.
Yeah, like they just keep popping up.
Yeah, they pop into a window, you shoot them, they like fall down. I even heard that described that when you shot them, it sounded like tin cans.
Yes.
Like you shot a tin can.
Yep.
So it's almost like if you were at like a carnival and you shot like you know, it's not whack-a-mole, but one of those like games where you shoot something and it falls down and another one pops up.
Which is weird because those guys did work at the circus.
Right. So maybe...
I mean, circus, carnival, maybe. But circuses, do they have games?
I'm sure they do.
I don't know.
I mean,
probably.
that's interchangeable.
Same idea, right?
Yeah. I would describe people who work at a circus as a carny. So.
Yeah. I'm probably offending some circus workers right now.
Yeah.
Just assuming that there's fun games there.
Right.
But really, it's just
this is
all
serious.
about torturing animals.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't like the circus the same way.
No,
but
I don't fuck with circuses.
No. So that creature backflipped, ran off.
Yeah.
They saw one perched in a branch in a maple tree above them and shot at that one and just floated away. I still can't really picture, like, some of them made it sound like, not that it was, like, floating up into the air, but kind of like, I'm picturing it up in the branch, they shoot at it, and the way it was described is kind of like that it floated down and then, like, scurried off.
Almost like it fell, but it wasn't under Earth's gravity, or like it had, like, way less effective gravity.
Exactly. Yeah, like it fell, but, like, very gracefully, and then just kind of scurried. But never seemingly getting hurt. Yeah, they shot at one coming around a corner and heard what they sounded like gunfire hitting metal, like you just described. They noticed, or at least one of them noticed, that the beings, while they didn't seem to be affected by the gunfire, seemed to retreat when they had bright light on them.
Interesting.
Which is interesting, too.
So they're the gremlins from that movie Gremlins.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
I was disappointed to see that the movie Critters from the 80s was kind of loosely based on this, but not Gremlins. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. When I first read the name, I thought Gremlins in my head, and I was like, oh, and then I was like, no, different movie.
Not the same.
Totally different. But, yeah, so they went inside, they were going to, like, regroup, think about what the hell to do about all this. And then they heard scratching coming from the roof.
Right.
Holy shit. Lucky goes out to fire, which, again, floated down off the roof and scrambled out of sight. And then, finally, they, like, waited for a break, and they all ran for the trucks. Right. And went to the police station.
And wasn't it Glennie was like kind of like the voice of reason? She's like, wait, they aren't like trying to hurt us. They haven't tried to attack us yet.
Right.
Maybe we can like go out to the cars and we can like make it to the police station.
Yeah.
The one like rational human being here.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, let's stop shooting at these things because we're wasting all of our ammo and putting holes in our like farmhouse.
Let's just go talk to the police.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. So they drive to the police station in Hopkinsville.
Hopkinsville, yeah.
Yeah, the sergeant working at the front desk didn't really know what to make of their claim.
Right.
They brought everybody, so all 12 of these people come in the house.
I wonder how much of this like stereotypes played into it too, because if these are sort of like rural country folk coming to Hopkinsville, which is not a city by any means, but it's more of a city than Kelly was. So I wonder, like, you know, these like kind of maybe dirty country folk come in.
Right.
And so the cops are like, okay, yeah, like you guys have been drinking some moonshine.
Right.
Started shooting at God knows what. And like weren't really taking it seriously.
Yeah. But they did get worried because they thought, So, yeah, they described fighting off these little silver men outside their farmhouse, like, and said they'd been at it for hours. I think it sounded like the police got worried that maybe there was, like, some kind of gun battle between, like, some citizens.
Right.
They didn't necessarily think that there were silver men out there, but they were like, oh, shit.
Right.
Like,
who have these people been shooting at for 4 hours?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is going on over there for hours?
Right.
That's just, like, that's nonstop wild. Gunfire. Yeah.
4 hours. Like, normally with, like, cryptid sightings, in, like, a single encounter with a cryptid is, like, maybe a few minutes max. Like, I don't remember hearing about a cryptid sighting that has occurred for 4 hours.
Yeah.
With people, like, actively trying to, like, attack and stay away from the cryptid, and the cryptid continues to, like, be seen and make its like that's crazy.
Yeah, they were not chasing these things down. These things were just popping up in the windows.
Right.
Which again, weird. Like, didn't seem like they were trying to get inside necessarily. I don't know if they would have been able to anyways, but it didn't seem like they were trying to, like, claw their way in.
Right.
They weren't trying to get in the doorway. One would assume that they could have, like, busted, like, through the screen on the window or something, but
if
they weren't
impervious to gunfire.
Right.
Unless maybe because the lights in the house were preventing them from entering the house.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just weird that they were kind of, like, persistently coming up to this house and being like, hey, but not being chased away by them firing, like, not... Yeah, I mean, maybe... Who I always consider, too, like, with alien beings...
Right.
Like, we know, okay, like, gunfire is dangerous. It can hurt you, like, if you know, as humans, and even animals, like, we're instinctually, like, you hear a gunshot and you hide or you duck or you run or something. But if an alien has no experience with gunfire, and if it doesn't affect them, like, they aren't necessarily taking the gunfire as, like, oh, we better get out of here.
Right.
This is, like, we're unwelcome here. They're just like, woo!
Yeah. Like, I mean, I was thinking about it, like, I would imagine any aliens that come to our planet aren't just, like, visiting. They're probably, like, I don't know, like, scientific and trying to, like, study us.
Right.
And so maybe they were just inquisitive coming up to the windows trying to see, like, what's going on here? Why are they, like, what is this?
Why are there so many people in this house?
Right. Why are there 12 people in this tiny little house?
What's going on?
Why is there no running water?
Yeah, what's happening here?
Why do they all have these, like, strange, loud sticks that keep, like, hitting us and bouncing off?
Why are they all wearing overalls? What's happening? Okay, there's some bad stereotypes here.
Yeah, we're playing.
But it's 1950s Kentucky. I don't know. People wear overalls in the country nowadays too.
Yeah, it's not necessarily stereotype. It's
the overalls do not make the man.
No, the man makes the overalls.
The man makes the overalls
because they probably handmade all those overalls. Because
yes,
God knows there's no stores in Kelly.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look up the population, but I did. A couple articles referred to Kelly as being like, you know, not much more than like some houses and like a couple small stores. Like it seemed like it was a teeny tiny little town.
Right, like a Main Street kind of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they go to the police. The police are like, oh shit. Yeah, who have you been shooting at for hours? How has nobody else called us?
Right.
What the hell's going on? Like, that neighbor that was a quarter mile away, they could see flashlights in the woods. They did not hear gunfire going off.
For 4 hours?
For 4 hours? Like,
you hear like 1 or 2 gunshots in the country, you'd probably be like, yeah, whatever. Like, they're probably just like, whatever. 4 hours later, you'd be like, you'd be annoyed. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
It's midnight. Because by the time they went to the police station, it was like midnight.
It was midnight.
So, like, I'm trying to fucking sleep.
Yeah,
man.
this is late.
I gotta go farm in the morning. I got shit to do.
The neighbor that it said saw the flashlight, again, like, thought that they were looking for a pig or, like, an animal that got loose. And then I think it even mentioned that when he first heard, like, the first shot or two, he thought that maybe there was an animal on I'm assuming that there's a farm with this farmhouse. So he assumed that there was, like, some type of animal on the farm that maybe was trying to get, you know, some kind of predator trying to get some of the other animals. But, again, like, that would not be happening for hours.
No.
Like, all the gunshots.
4 hours.
So you would just think, So the police are like, oh shit, something's going down. So 4 city police, 5 state troopers, 3 deputy sheriffs, and 4 military police from this nearby, like, U.S. Army base all go to the house.
That's crazy. That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. Just, like, assuming that there's just, like, citizen, you know, gunfire happening. Seems a little much, but they search around and there's no evidence. Besides, obviously, there's bullets everywhere.
Right.
And, like, holes in the doors and the windows and stuff, but they didn't find anything.
Except that luminous green liquid?
Yeah.
Or luminous green, like, substance?
Substance on, like, a fence.
Yeah.
And a little bit back in the woods. Which, did seem sketchy to me. Apparently, it is consistent with
Foxfire?
Foxfire, which is, yeah, like some type of, what was it, like a fungus?
Yeah.
That grows on, like, wet wood or something like that?
And it happens to be
wood.
bioluminescent, so it looks like it glows green in the dark.
Yeah, so it could have been that.
Could have been.
But it supposedly was near where one of the creatures had apparently been shot, and then a little bit more in the woods, like you could think maybe.
It was alien blood?
Yeah, like just like in the X-Files.
Right.
Everything goes back there. Shit. So yeah, they don't really find any evidence except for that, and the gun fire and everything, the holes everywhere. The next day, I guess a couple of the police officers came back just to see how things were going. The neighbors said that the family packed up and left, saying that the creatures had come back around like 3:30 in the morning.
Right.
Which, it kind of, one of the things I read made it seem like that was it. The family was gone, but I guess they did come back. So this, like, gets widespread media coverage.
Yeah.
Like, local and national. People are like, what happened?
Right.
This was actually so... The phrase little green men had been used before this, but really only in, like, science fiction type of references.
Interesting.
And funny enough, they actually didn't even describe these as little green men. I think they actually called them little gray men. Or, like, silver.
Which, so before I, like, researched this topic, you always hear about the race of aliens, grays.
Yes.
So, like, little gray men always seemed to make more sense to me, and I never understood why the phrase little green men was a thing.
Yeah.
And then I read about this, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. One of the things did say that one of the witnesses did describe them as, like, they were generally described as gray or silver. One of them mentioned that, like, he kind of had, like, a greenish, like, luminescence to him, kind of, like, in the right light.
Like the green foxfire luminescence that was found.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So, yeah, seemingly they were, like, more silver and gray. So, actually, they were just misquoted, but it kind of popularized that phrase.
Every time there's, like, a popular phrase, it's somebody being misquoted.
Exactly. That's
like
exactly what it was with flying saucers, too.
Yeah. Flying saucers.
They were not even referring to them as being flying saucers. They said that they skipped like saucers.
Right.
But
not the same.
The flying saucers is now a thing. Little green men, popularized by this, but that's not even what they said.
Right.
Yeah, estimates of the size of the creatures varied from 2 feet to 4 feet. Yeah, like we said, large pointed ears, hands with claws, eyes that glowed yellow, spindly legs.
If you're somewhere, please Google a picture of that.
Yes.
Because it's a very, like, almost like stereotypical alien or, like, goblin or...
Yeah, it's kind of a cross between a few weird things.
Yeah, like, it doesn't just fit... Like, it doesn't feel like an alien to me.
Yeah.
It feels more like a goblin.
Right.
Which, I guess I draw the distinction as, like, an alien is, like, supernatural and I feel like is more real. Yeah. Whereas a goblin, I feel like is more, like, supernatural and maybe less real. I don't know.
Yeah, more of, like, folklore.
Folklore, yeah.
Than...
Folkloric. That's a good phrase for it.
Yeah. So, yeah, they've been compared to gremlins, as we mentioned, mischievous creatures in folklore. And so they've also been referred to as the Hopkinsville goblins. Apparently, a ton of UFO fanatics, like, converged on the house in the days after this. They wanted to, like, check out the property. They wanted to see what the family had seen. They, like, took some stuff that they found as, like, souvenirs.
That seems shitty.
Yeah, and the family, I guess, got sick of that, and not only being harassed, but being called liars and being criticized and made fun of. So they left within, like, 10 days. Glennie, the mom, despite moving or living in the country for her entire life up until that point, moved to the city, saying that she felt safer being around people.
I can see that.
JC, one of the people who was involved in shooting the creatures, was, like, unable to hold down a job for a long time after that, like, had psychological issues stemming from this event. So, once again, an instance where people come forward with this stuff. And again, like, in the 50s, this wasn't, you know, it's not like in the 70s, I feel like, when paranormal stuff was kind of making more of a wave.
Right.
This was still kind of in the time where, like, it wasn't really talked about and, like, widely reported, and it just wasn't as much of a thing. So people were often, I mean, even nowadays, again, like, I feel like people get made fun of for that shit. Like, if somebody for real came forward in a neighborhood or in a community and was like, oh my god, I saw a UFO, like, probably most people would be like, really?
Yeah.
You're crazy. So these people came forward with this and got harassed. Lucky's daughter, Geraldine, who was born well after the event, but, like, he ended up telling her about it at some point. I think it said that somebody had come to his house at some point, like way later, wanting to like write a book about it or something like that, or include it in a book about UFO encounters or alien encounters.
Right.
So he took the opportunity to tell his daughter and his like other kids about this thing, which he had just never told them about before. And so she heard a lot about it from him. And like in the late 60s, she ended up saying that like he really didn't like how people treated him once the story got out. He got made fun of. He was like traumatized by it. She said, still to this day, the witnesses who are alive are afraid to talk.
Interesting.
Just because they're like so heavily criticized. So, one of those things where like with stories like this, people are so quick to be like, oh.
They just want attention.
Yeah, they want attention. And it's like, who would really want this attention? I mean, even if there's books written and stuff like that, like, those books are written by people who are kind of fanatics about it and like believers, and generally read by people who are fanatics and believers.
Right.
I mean, nobody's buying books on this stuff if they aren't into this.
Right.
Generally, books about these topics are not like hugely popular. Obviously, there are some exceptions with shows that are popular that deal with this stuff, but even then, it's not taken seriously.
Right.
Except by people like us who were like, yeah,
fuck yeah.
But a lot of people are just watching it as entertainment. Like, it's fun for them because it's fiction.
Right, and they believe it to be fiction.
Yeah. So, it just never really hits me right when people assume that stuff is, like, made up to be, like, some fun hoax. Because it's like, this doesn't sound fucking fun. Like, that woman moved out of her house and moved to the city.
Yeah, they just don't strike me as, like, the type of people who are looking for that kind of attention, looking to, like, make a buck off this. Yeah. And from what I can tell, they didn't profit off this at all. No. It's not like they started charging admission to their farm or
once people started coming, they left.
Or story, you know what I mean? Like they didn't attempt to profit off this at all. They wanted to like put it behind them and move forward.
Yeah. So it always seems odd. So, of course, there's lots of skepticism.
Yes.
Naturally,
I have to admit, I was a skeptic reading the story. Like it just is a very fantastical story from beginning to end. Like. The vivid description of like goblins and just like the 4 hours that they were encountering this, like it just seems so blatant or so like, you know, it's the idea of like whenever you see like a photo of something supernatural, if it's super blurry, you're like, oh, that's fake because it's too blurry.
Right.
Or if it's too clear, you're like, oh, that's fake because it's too clear.
Yeah.
This is like it's fake because it's too clear. Like there's too much detail. There's too much interaction between like the person and the cryptid or the aliens. Yeah. It's weird. It's very unique, I feel like. I don't think I've read like an alien story or an alien encounter quite like this one. Yeah.
No, it's super interesting. I have to give a shout out to my friend Joel, who is the one who was like, you guys ought to do an episode on Kelly-Hopkinsville. Yeah. We've been talking about a similar topic, and then he brought this one up, and he was like, you guys should really do that. And I was like, well, we'll do it for the next episode. Right. And yeah, it is an interesting topic for that reason too. Like you said, most cryptid stories, alien stories, like UFO sightings, it's quick. Even if it lasts like 10 minutes, like it's still quick. Right. It's not hours long. So the fact that this was so long is unique. So yeah, so there's this group called the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. Did not know it existed.
Interesting.
It was formerly known, and this is like funny to me only because, so Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, the abbreviation is CSI, which is kind of cool. Right. But you know, it's like a nice, short, succinct.
David Caruso is the head of it.
Oh my god,
that's good stuff.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. Okay. Didn't see that coming. So they shortened it to CSI from, it was formerly known as the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal. So like CSICP. And they were like, no.
CSI. And then they saw CSI Miami and they were like, that's it. That's it. We got it.
Yeah, because this group was formed in like the mid 70s, after like the surge of the paranormal stuff in the United States. So yeah, they totally like formed it, and then later on they were like, shit, we missed an opportunity. Let's just shorten this up a little bit.
Sunglasses are dope.
The sunglasses are amazing. So many memes are going to come from this. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, so this group is a program within the transnational American nonprofit educational organization Center for Inquiry.
Jesus, that's way too many words.
I know, which seeks to, quote, promote scientific inquiry, critical investigation, and the use of reason in examining controversial and extraordinary claims.
Wow.
Yeah, which is intense. So one of the members, Joe Nickel, is convinced that they just misidentified great horned owls.
Just like Mothman.
Just like Mothman, exactly.
It's always just weird birds.
They're like, just like Mothman, just like, what's that, Unsolved Murder? No. Maybe a murder. Maybe just a death. Oh, you didn't watch that documentary, did you? The Staircase?
Oh, I did.
Oh, you did? Yeah. There was a theory that there was an owl involved in that, too.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Owls just come into everything.
See, okay. The whole, it's a misidentified bird.
Yeah.
To me, feels like the whole swamp gas thing, where that was a very famous UFO researcher whose name escapes me at this moment, but they asked him what happened with some UFO sighting, and he's like, oh, it was like swamp gas and like the light of Venus like reflecting off it. Yeah. And now that's almost like a meme in UFO culture. It's like swamp gas is just like a farcical, just like sounds almost scientific enough to be legit, but really if you start thinking about it, you're like, no, like that's terrible.
Yeah.
And that's what birds are to cryptids. People are always like, oh, it's a fucking bird, because birds, I guess, look weird and they migrate, so you could have a bird that's not from that area come to your area, just one of them, and be misidentified. And I can almost see that. Some of like the behavior of the goblins kind of would lend themselves to that, like the reflective eyes, the stature, and
they
like the way
silently.
that they fly silently, the scratching of like talons on the roof that they heard.
They're nocturnal.
They
can be aggressive.
They like defend their nests and stuff.
Yeah.
So like I don't fully discount the great horned owl, but because it's such a trope that they always like pull out whenever there's any kind of cryptid, I'm instantly skeptical of that explanation.
Right. It's like the weather balloon thing.
Right. Oh, it's
just a weather balloon.
It's a weather balloon.
Oh, every time there's a UFO, like, no, weather balloon.
Weather balloon.
That's all
it was. It was a weather balloon and there was swamp gas at the same time. So it's just like they
and
came
then like
together.
an owl flew through and it was confusing.
And you're like, fuck.
And then not only was it an owl, but that owl got deformed from sewage.
I don't know much about, TNT area and Mothman.
I know.
I don't know much about owls and their behavior, but I'm fairly certain that they're relatively solo. Or even if they're not solo, they probably travel in very small packs. What do you call a group of owls? I don't know.
There's probably a name for it.
Somebody write in and tell us what you call a group of owls.
Yeah, what is a group of owls?
Maybe there's not, because they are solo all the time.
Right, exactly, because there's not groups.
Imagine, so there was described as 12 to 15 of these goblins?
So actually, one of the things I read, the daughter of Lucky said that was like exaggerated in later stories, but that actually they really only thought there were like 3 or 4.
Okay.
But still, a group.
Still, more than one owl, I feel like, converging on a farmhouse and continuously attacking it.
Right.
For 4 hours.
For hours.
Does not hold a lot of water.
No, and
that seems very bizarre.
Yeah, it seems weird. And one of the things that Joe Nickel said, was that his name, Joe Nickel? Yeah. Yes. Said that they aggressively defend their nests.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess I don't know how close the back of the house was to the woods, if there was a nest nearby, but again, you would think, I mean, again, I don't know much about owls either. This might surprise you. I'm not an owl expert.
Whoa.
Not yet.
Damn it.
I know. This whole podcast is a farce.
Flips the table.
So just quit right now. But I would think that if there was an owl defending their nest, like what, were there suddenly 4 owls that had nests back there that didn't the day before?
Right, and like, if there was a single... Okay, imagine there was just one owl that they imagined was 3 or 4, because who knows? Maybe they were intoxicated. That's a whole other... We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
But, so maybe it was just one owl. Yeah. But why did this owl all of a sudden choose this one night to start attacking everybody?
Right.
Can imagine, okay, there's 12 people there. So there's always people around. There's always shit going on in this house, I imagine, with 12 people in there.
Yeah.
Why did this owl choose this night to then attack? And how was this owl able to withstand all this gunfire and appear as if it was at least 3 or 4 or 12 to 15, depending on which account you're gonna believe? How are you gonna make one owl turn into all of those? It doesn't. It's almost logical if you look at just the physical description of the goblins themselves. But
exactly. If this was a brief encounter that they like walked outside and saw this thing flying through the woods,
right,
and they were like, "Oh my god, it was like 2 feet tall with glowing eyes,
right,
and didn't make any noise, and it was just floating along," like sure,
right,
that was an owl. Even if it flew at them once,
right,
and they ran inside and they were like, "Oh my god, I saw this crazy thing," sure.
right. Well, plus they're living in like rural Kentucky.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they've seen owls before.
Exactly.
It's not like it's some weird animal.
No, it said that these owls they lived in that area. So
right.
This was not a case of like them migrating necessarily. It was native to the area.
Right.
So you'd have to assume that they had seen it before.
Right.
And again, it just doesn't make sense. They didn't go into the woods to investigate, it didn't seem.
Right.
They went outside just to be like, what are those noises?
Right.
So it doesn't really make sense that an owl would like come out from the woods and be like, hey, fuck off.
Right.
And then that there'd be 3 or 4 of them.
For 4 hours.
Coming at the house even when people were inside.
Impervious to gunfire.
Doing backflips.
Sounding like tin cans when you shoot them.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
So, no. There's an author, Brian Dunning, who kind of focuses on like science and skepticism in his writing. I guess he also has a podcast called Skeptoid. He did an episode on the Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter as well, which I didn't listen to, and I haven't listened to his podcast, but not saying that I wouldn't, right. But me and Brian Dunning might not end up being friends. Maybe, because he also thinks that there are too many similarities to the great horned owls to totally ignore that. Again, I didn't listen to the episode. I didn't read his whole description. It's possible that he just thought it was a possibility.
So I'll get into it. I have an opinion that involves great horned owls as well. Yeah. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's Brian Dunning. There's an astronomer and a UFO researcher, Dr. J. Allen Hynek.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
J. Allen Hynek, he's the one who I was talking about with swamp gas.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
he thinks this is bullshit.
Yeah, well, he's like godfather of like the paranormal, and I think specifically UFOs. I want to say he's the one who coined the term like close encounters of the third kind. And it created all of like the hierarchy of like the close encounters of the first kind, second kind, third kind.
He thinks that this was preposterous.
Yes.
And that it was offensive to common sense. So he's not into this at all. Some skeptics even say that the beings were actually monkeys that the circus workers had brought back. I don't know, like, that just seems like a stretch to me. Only because they would have fucking known they brought the monkeys back.
Well, they were... Didn't you say that the family was like a family of carnival workers?
There were a couple people. Like, there was the family, and then it seemed like I think the circus workers were friends of the family. Like, friends of some people in the family.
So unless the friends of the family were fucked up on something... Right. Then they would have been able to recognize, like, oh, that's our monkeys. Like,
we brought
please stop shooting at those monkeys. Exactly. We need those for our act.
I'm pretty sure at least one of the people that was shooting at the creatures was one of the circus workers. At least one of them.
Yeah, because he wasn't the last name Sutton.
Right.
Billy Ray Taylor.
Yeah. So I don't think he was a family member. I think he was one of the circus workers. But yeah, there was at least one circus worker that was doing some of the shooting. So
who not only would have recognized his own monkeys, but would have just recognized monkeys in general as... something.
I would think that's like a thing that also monkeys can't float.
Right, monkeys wouldn't float. They're not bulletproof.
Exactly.
And they don't sell me tin cans when you shoot them. No, I mean, I've never shot a monkey, and I never plan to.
I don't really want to do that.
But I'm assuming that they don't sell like tin cans.
Yeah, you'd think that'd be a thing if you went to somebody's house and you brought some monkeys. That would be like one of the first things you brought up when you got there. By the way, they probably wouldn't like just be in your car. At the very least, once you started shooting at them, you'd be like, don't worry, guys, that's my monkeys. Yeah, my mistake. 4 hours later. What were they gonna... They brought them back and they just like let them loose in this like totally open area where there's like woods? I don't think so. Right. Plus, do monkeys have like eye shine? You know what I mean? I don't know, actually. Some animals do, some animals don't. Right. I don't think humans do. I'm not sure. So I think it would probably follow to reason that primates don't. Right. So maybe we don't have eye shine. Yeah, I would doubt it. And while it seems like monkeys would be mischievous enough to like be fucking around with the people in the house, right? Again, they can't float. Right. They probably would be hurt if you shot them. Again, I don't know that for certain, but I'm pretty positive. So yeah, the monkey thing just seems crazy. Some thought that moonshine was involved. Yes. Though supposedly Glennie, the mother, was super strict about no alcohol on her property. Right. So, your theory on that, though... Yes. Okay, so you have Glennie, the matriarch of the family, who says no alcohol whatsoever. Yeah.
So all that means is that you have to work harder to consume alcohol to not get caught.
True.
So that may mean that you would distill your own moonshine out in the woods somewhere using, car parts, radiator parts, sketchy things. It's not like you're making like clean moonshine.
No.
So if you have tainted alcohol, which could be tainted with who knows what.
Who freaking knows?
So these people could have been drinking some pretty like intense hallucinogenic alcohol, which not hallucinogenic in the sense of like, oh, it's fun to do. It's like killing your brain while you're drinking it.
Yeah, it's bad.
Tainted alcohol plus something like great horned owls plus folie à deux or some sort of like mass hysteria.
Throwback to episode 12.
Throwback to episode 12. Few people in the family are fucked up on tainted alcohol, believe something to be true, plus some sort of actual physical stimuli like a great horned owl or, I don't know, maybe monkeys. Who knows?
Sure.
1 + 1, you get people thinking that they're shooting at little goblins because it's mass hysteria and they start to believe it because these people who drank the tainted alcohol were hallucinating.
Right.
I don't necessarily believe that 100%, but if I were to try to come up with a rational explanation for this, it would probably involve tainted alcohol and misidentified animals of some kind.
Something.
Yeah.
Right, because even if they were convinced we saw some crazy shit,
right,
and then the mom's in there like, no, this is crazy, you guys are crazy, and they're like going on and on about these creatures, and then they got the guns out, it's pretty easy for things to get escalated to be like, holy shit,
right,
something's out there.
Something.
Even if you don't believe that it is what they say it is, like something is making you get a gun.
Right.
And then if something popped up in the window and she saw it, as that part described, that she saw it and screamed. Right. She may have just seen, I mean, it obviously maybe looked similar to what they were describing. Right. So she just saw it really quick and screamed and was like, oh shit, there are those things out there. But it may not have been exactly what they thought it was. Right. Again, if it was owls or whatever. So yeah, I could see that too. Yeah. So
there was also the Kappa Cygni meteor shower that night. Yes. So that streak of light that they saw in the sky. Yep. That they thought was a UFO landing or crashing or whatever could have been just a meteor. Right. Meteor shower.
And some people suggested the metallic sounds that they thought were coming from the creatures, maybe they just had really shitty aim and it was just bullets bouncing off of like trash cans and cars.
That would make a whole lot of sense.
It would make a lot of sense. This is really one of the few stories like this that I've read that like really bums me out because I'm kind of like, yeah.
The rational explanations kind of make more sense. Yeah. If you go with Occam's razor, the explanation that requires the least amount of leaps of faith is probably the answer. I know. I have to take the skeptic view of this one.
It's a bummer. UFologist Jerome Clark seemed like he was in support of the story. He was the one who had like kind of been talking about the creatures floating and the sound of the bullets like hitting metal, and mentioned that glowing on the fence and in the woods and stuff. Right. Which again has been criticized by skeptics as just being that bioluminescent, foxfire. So who knows? Project Blue Book, which we've talked about in past episodes. If you don't remember,
the Air Force.
Yes, the United States Air Force had multiple studies on paranormal, like UFO type of stuff. Right. This particular one, Project Blue Book, was the third of its kind, started in 1952. They listed the case as a hoax with no further explanation.
Just hoax, period.
Yeah, just like, nope. I thought, the one thing I thought was interesting, this is going to be its own episode, because it's super cool. Right. This incident took place along latitude 37 north. Right. Which is known as the 37th parallel, which is supposed to have kind of like a really high frequency of all kinds of weird paranormal shit. Right. UFO sightings, alien sightings, lots of like livestock and cattle mutilations. Super crazy. Right. So yeah, it's supposed to be like roughly the horizontal center of our mostly spherical Earth.
Interesting.
So if you kind of look, you can look on a map or look up like the 37th parallel and see where it stretches across which states, but it goes through Kentucky. So this author, Ben Mesrick, I don't know if that's pronounced right, but
close enough.
He wrote a book called The 37th Parallel, The Secret Truth Behind America's UFO Highway. Wow. Super cool. So this dude is known for his books, Bringing Down the House,
Right.
About the 6 MIT students that went to Vegas and, like, got tons of money because they did that card counting cool thing.
Right.
And he also wrote a book called The Accidental Billionaires about Mark Zuckerberg.
Yep.
Which ended up being turned into the movie The Social Network.
Right.
Which was kind of a big thing.
So his career was kind of going one very specific direction and then kind of took a left turn.
Took, like, a big left turn. He paired up with this dude, Chuck Zukowski, who is known... His website, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember the exact address, but... If you Google his name, like, his website comes up as, like, one of the first things, and he's referred to as UFO Nut, or also the Mulder of El Paso.
I respect this dude already.
Yeah, I like this dude already. He is a microchip engineer and a sheriff's deputy who just, in his free time, tracks down evidence of UFO reports. Literally said that he, like, spends weekends taking his family sometimes on, like, fact-finding missions to go find evidence of UFO stuff. So, he starts to learn of all of these mutilated livestock and sees how, like, this kind of is all coinciding with this 37th parallel. So he starts getting into that. He kind of goes backwards to, like, Roswell, thinking, like, dude, this was, like, the start of all kinds of weird shit.
Right.
Which, again, Roswell will be its own huge topic. Like,
we gotta
crazy-ass topic.
do our homework for that one.
Oh, my God. He finds, like, this weird triangular piece of debris. He sends it to Bigelow Aerospace.
Yes.
Which is... just a little fucking startup owned by Robert Bigelow, who is the billionaire owner of hotel chain Budget Suites of America, who also happens to love the paranormal, and once purchased Skinwalker Ranch for his own, like, fact-finding, investigating mission.
To anybody who knows, Skinwalker Ranch is one of the most intensely paranormal geographic areas that I've ever heard of in my life. Like, it gives me chills to think about because there's there's too much. We're going to do an episode on it.
Oh my God.
And we have to give ourselves, like, months to prepare.
We're literally planning it, probably months ahead of time.
Right.
To do, like, at least a 3-parter.
Because there's
so much.
So much.
So this place is, like, intense and terrifying.
Yes.
The fact that anybody would purchase it.
Right.
And willingly spend time there is beyond me.
See, I think, personally, if anybody's going to find some conclusive proof of the paranormal or the extraterrestrial, it's going to be some weird eccentric billionaire who just has insane amounts of disposable income and doesn't give a fuck about wasting it.
That's like he's the prime example. People talk about, like, just get whatever job you need to, like, make good money to, like, pursue what you like on the side. Mm-hmm. This dude runs probably, like, the most boring hotel chain, Budget Suites of America, so that he can buy Skinwalker Ranch, and he has an agreement with the FAA to send him reports of UFO sightings.
Right.
Only some weird billionaire could do that.
How do you get that kind of clearance?
Exactly. When you have billions of dollars.
Right.
And, like, they're just literally just sending him, like, oh, got another report. And then he can, like, do his own investigation. So yeah, these all got connected because Chuck Zukowski, the Mulder of El Paso, sent the piece of debris to Bigelow Aerospace for him to examine in his own lab to see, like, what's up with this. So I won't go into much more about that or about the mutilations or anything, but...
More on that later.
That'll be a whole episode on the 37th parallel, but this shit took place along latitude 37 north.
Right.
So
if these people were hoaxing this, they either had extreme luck in being located on the 37th parallel, or they foresaw the modern UFO mythology and knew that this was going to be significant at some point.
Yeah.
But it just seems too good to be true, almost.
Right. Because I don't know that the 37th parallel was known as this UFO hotspot back in the 50s. I highly doubt it. So, yeah. I'm surprised we haven't done anything on cattle mutilation yet.
That's the thing.
We haven't even touched on it.
Cattle mutilation kind of makes me sad.
It's super sad.
I love animals.
And there are some fucked up stories.
Yes, because they do some whoever is mutilating cattle do fucked up things.
The most messed up ones I think I heard were in that thing that we listened to on Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's some pretty
There's some
wild
messed up stuff. Yeah, so watch out for those two topics.
Yes.
37th Parallel and Skinwalker Ranch. They're going to blow your face off.
Yep.
Yeah, so... that's kind of a tie-in to this potentially being paranormal.
Right.
Fun fact. You mentioned the Pokemon, which is awesome.
Yep. Sableye.
Steven Spielberg cited this case as part of the inspiration behind both E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Two of the most iconic
yes.
alien movies of all time.
I actually need to rewatch Close Encounters.
Me
pretty
too.
Soon, but
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I almost watched it the other night. I don't know why I didn't.
J. Allen Hynek is in Close Encounters.
Is he really?
He has a little like cameo.
No way.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
J. Allen Hynek.
Damn, that's awesome. But the residents of Kelly, Kentucky, now celebrate the anniversary of this event on the third weekend of every August with an event called the Kelly Little Green Men Days Festival.
Oh.
Started in 2010, so it was pretty recent. Because I think, the anniversary was 2005.
Right.
So it wasn't like till years later. I think they were trying to think of a way to do like a fun little kind of fundraiser type of thing for the town or whatever, for the community, and then they were like,
what would it be famous for? Oh, the one thing
everybody
knows about.
Yeah, I've literally never heard of Kelly, Kentucky until now.
Right.
So, so that's Kelly-Hopkinsville.
Interesting. A little side note, too. In August 2017, the total solar eclipse passed right through Kelly.
Yes. Actually, one of the articles that I read that had a lot of good info about this was right before that eclipse.
Interesting.
It was like one of the people that either set up the festival or was like deeply involved in it. Was kind of giving some background, and that's like how I learned about Lucky's daughter. I guess she has been to like a few of the festivals to speak to people. She's heard like tons of crazy stories from people who are also, paranormal fanatics or UFO fanatics or whatever, who have like shared their own experiences with her.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting. That shit happens, man. People like are involved in this. They've got a connection. Other people like trust their stories to them to be like, she wasn't there, but she heard about it from her dad.
Right.
So I feel like, people feel like an affinity towards people like that they were like somehow also involved.
Yeah. Like you will believe my story.
Yeah. Because like you believe your dad's story. You believe that they went through some things, which I think even that in itself, like just is a testament to like, she's like an adult now speaking at this event. And she still, like, to this day, seems to, like, deeply believe that this happened.
Right.
From what her dad told her, which, again, was years after it happened, was not something he brought up on his own, like, as soon as they were old enough to understand. Like, he only brought it up because this person came to the house to talk to him about the event, to write about it. And then he was like, all right, I guess I should tell you about this.
Right.
So it wasn't something that he was, like, dying to be like, guess what, guys? Like, he was like, all right.
Right.
I guess I'll rehash this, like, traumatizing event in my life.
Interesting.
And she seems to, like, deeply believe that this happened from what she's heard from her dad. Which, I know kids tend to, if you have a good relationship with your parent, like, you tend to want to believe what they say.
Right.
But you also have to think, like, if she was a skeptic, there'd probably be some inclination to be like, really?
You've got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. Like, I feel like even if my parent that I loved was telling me a story that I was like, Yeah. You know what I mean? I would probably, like, rub their back and say, like, okay, right. I believe you.
But would you, if you really didn't believe them, would you go speak at events on their behalf?
Exactly.
And, and be like, yes, this was a thing, like, people shouldn't criticize him.
Right.
So, like, she believes it.
Right. Interesting. On that same note,
yeah.
If anybody has paranormal experiences or alien experiences, please tell us about it.
Tell us about it.
We would love to hear that. We would love to be the ones that you entrust your knowledge to.
Yes. Please.
That'd be wild.
Everybody. I've had a couple friends here and there tell me about weird stuff, but not nearly as many as I'd like.
Right.
You all need to understand how open I am to your stories.
Yes.
Chances are I'm going to believe you.
Right.
Like we've said before, if we were Mulder and Scully, we'd both be Mulder.
Yes. Right.
There is not a skeptic in this pair. We are both just like, yep.
Right.
Fucking aliens.
I like to think that we take a rational view where we will discount obvious sort of like discrepancies.
Yeah.
But if you have a story that has a legitimate like core of truth to it,
yep.
I'm going to believe that shit.
I'm going to believe it.
In a second.
I believe all of it. I think in our own respective relationships with my husband and your fiance, they are both the Scullys. We are the Mulders of our relationship, and they are the Scullys.
100%.
100%, because neither of our significant others believe like 99% of what we talk about.
Right. And that's what's fun about it, is trying to convince Abby that, dude, let me tell you about something. Yeah. And then by the time I'm done with it, I'm like, right? And she's like, yeah, sure, I guess. Okay. I mean, I don't have any other information, so.
Oh, it's terrible. I tried to talk to Nate about, we were on a walk with Mookow the other day, and, I was just chatting, and we were talking about the episode that we had recorded, which was the man from Torrid. Yep. So it was the whole topic of parallel dimensions and all that stuff, and I was, like, going on and on about the story, and then talking about parallel dimensions, and at some point, Nate's more the type when we're on a walk that just wants to, like, quietly walk and, like, think and just, like, look around at stuff. And he's like, oh, nature. And I'm just, like, talking nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
So usually he'll just be quiet and just listen to me for a while. And then I kind of, like, finished all my stuff, and I'm just like, what do you think? Like, where do you think that guy came from? What do you think happened there? And he's just like, don't know. It was like, after all that, I'm like, you got nothing?
Dunno. That's it.
He had nothing to offer. I was like, what do you think is the explanation? Like, if you don't think he came from another dimension, what do you think was the story? And he, like, everything I tell him, he's just like, don't know. I'm like, but you don't even think it's interesting?
That, like,
and he's just like,
lack of curiosity.
I know.
I don't get it.
I know. It's sad. It's like this whole, I feel like he's got a whole part of his brain that, like, if you looked at our brains on, like, a scan, we've got, like, a whole big chunk that's, like, lit up.
Oh my God.
And his is just, like, dim.
Dead.
Yeah. It's really sad.
Black.
It's just black and empty. Just like, how do you not? I don't know. Again, I think it makes life more interesting.
I agree.
To at least think that there's a possibility in these things.
Right.
If not, to just, I mean...
See, like, I'm a huge conspiracy theorist nut. I love to read about conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
I believe maybe, 5% of the conspiracy theories that I've read about.
Yeah.
But I love to read them with an open mind, because when you really start to read into any of this stuff, what you have to start to believe is that people aren't making up stories just to make up a story. They've experienced something.
Yeah.
Maybe that something is explainable. Maybe it's a misidentified natural phenomenon, or they have, I don't know, hallucinated or something. But what you have to believe is that people saw something.
Right.
These people in Kelly-Hopkinsville saw something.
Oh, yeah.
For 4 hours, they experienced something.
Yeah.
What that was is way open for debate.
Exactly.
Maybe it was natural. Maybe it was supernatural. We don't know. But at the very least, you have to read the story and get the facts and try to decide, like, what did they see?
Exactly.
What happened here?
Yeah.
Because it was something. It wasn't just these people making up a story.
No. And I think I tend to empathize a lot with people, and I get really defensive about these topics. I remember the last time our grandparents were here. I don't know how it came up, of course.
Right.
But something like that came up. And naturally, if you know our grandparents, this doesn't come as much of a surprise, but Grandma is much more open. She doesn't necessarily, like, get into all that stuff, but she's totally the type that anything that we would say, she's like, yeah, like, I could see that.
Right.
She's not really closed-minded about much of anything. But Grandpa is a little bit more, like, set in his beliefs.
Yep.
Not in a bad, like, he's not some shitty racist grandpa. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But just, that happened to be a topic that somehow it came up, and then I told some little story about something, and Grandpa kind of, like, laughed about it, and I was like, what? And he was like, no, like, that didn't happen. And I didn't expect it, but I, like, immediately felt myself, like, bristle up, and I was like, what?
Right.
What did you say?
What did you just say, Grandpa?
Grandpa, yeah, I'm, like, cracking my knuckles, like, about to fucking throw down. Catch these fucking hands, Grandpa, like, how dare you? But he totally, like, I kind of got out of him that he just didn't think that any type of, like, UFO sightings, like, cryptids and stuff, like, he thinks it's all made up.
Right.
And I was just like, you realize that even if you go beyond the cryptids and stuff, like, you go to, like, UFO sightings, that shit has been happening for thousands of years.
Oh, yeah.
And, he was kind of, I think he was initially thinking more of, like, modern stuff, and he's like, yeah, people see it in movies and TV shows, and that they think that they see it, like, whatever, and I was like, yeah, but how do you explain back in the days when there weren't movies, there was not social media, people couldn't even communicate in, within their same country, let alone, like,
right.
to other countries. They didn't even know other countries existed at some point, and you can still go back in their stories, in their illustrations, and you see things that have very similar descriptions.
Someday I want to do an episode on the battle over Nuremberg.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, like, the 1500s. This supposed, like, maybe extraterrestrial battle that took place over Nuremberg, Germany. Way before people knew what UFOs were, way before, like, aliens were in the consciousness of humans. This was pre all of that. Yeah. Pre-technology. And people saw potentially a battle, like an alien battle over a major city in Germany.
Exactly.
So, like
there was a time when it's not possible that people were just thinking of things that they had seen on TV or in movies or even heard stories of. Right. And you can't discount the fact that, or even, ghosts and, like, spirit sightings and stuff like that, like demons, like, there are stories that totally match up in their details from all different cultures, all different countries, continents, that had no way of communicating with each other. No way of being like, hey, did you hear about this? And then they're like, oh, and then it becomes like a legend or whatever. And I don't know, he still didn't seem convinced, but I like just didn't realize how fired up I was gonna get, where I'm just like, I'm fucking coming back there in that back seat.
Fight your grandpa.
Yeah. Like, I love you, but I will beat you down for this. I will
beat sense into you, grandpa.
Yeah. And like, you know, grandma's like, I wasn't like angry, but I was like trying to hold back because I'm just like,
yeah.
And also, it feels a little insulting when somebody's like that's all a bunch of bullshit. I'm like, well, I believe that shit. Like, you're telling me I'm bullshit, grandpa? Damn it. But yeah, he like he was not into that. He was just like, no, like people are all just making it up. I'm like, there's no reason for it though. No. Like you realize people are more criticized for saying that stuff than they are anything else.
Right. Like there's definitely people who are like seeking attention.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's
for sure.
relatively obvious.
Yeah.
People who like capitalize on it and make money and try to like sell tickets to stuff.
Exactly.
But most people, I feel like, almost like regret coming forward with their stories because like of all of the attention that they get. Yep. Negative attention.
Yep. Because it's mostly negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't really know how I feel about this particular encounter. It, like you said, it definitely, I don't deny that they saw something. The believer in me wants to think that they saw some weird alien goblins.
Yes.
I don't know for sure that they did.
No.
I would be curious to do slightly more research to see if there's any like interviews with any of the
primary sources.
Yeah, the primary sources, like if it was in the media. I didn't look deep into the articles to see what people had said specifically. So I'd be a little curious, but yeah, I mean they saw something. Who knows what they saw?
I guess the part of it that kind of puts me off the most from believing it is the lack of consistency with other alien encounters.
Yeah.
What strikes me is that not only the physical descriptions of these particular beings, aliens, is really outside of other people's experiences of aliens, but also their behavior is just so not alien.
Right.
I mean, you know, we're coming at this from the idea of like, oh, there's like one type of alien, but the idea that there's like two so distinct types of aliens that are capable of making contact with humans just seems so capable of making contact with humans once in an isolated event and not since then just seems implausible to me.
Right. Yeah, as far as I mean, definitely possible, but I don't know of any other encounter like this off the top of my head that has like similar looking creatures that were kind of behaving similarly. Again, cryptids, yes. But specifically aliens, and again, it seems like it'd be a weird coincidence if like it was just a meteor shower, but then they actually did see aliens. You know, we feel like those two things are connected, that they saw an alien ship crash or land or whatever, and then these creatures came. But like you said, they don't really behave like typical aliens. They behave more like these weird, mischievous goblins.
Right.
But who knows if, I don't know, these were just some particularly weird aliens.
Right. That
have not made many appearances.
I mean, there's a whole, if you get into it, there's a whole taxonomy of types of aliens.
Oh, yeah.
The Nordics and the Greys, and it's wild. The reptilians.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? Maybe there are different races of aliens that have made contact with humans.
Yeah.
But I've actually read about Eisenhower, the president. His daughter, granddaughter, one of his relations, she believes that aliens made contact with the U.S. government and that her grandfather, father, whoever, Eisenhower, was the first president, U.S. president, to make a pact with aliens and, like, started this whole thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's a whole nother rabbit hole to fall down.
Yeah.
But,
that's awesome.
So, I mean, like, potentially there's this, and, like, the thing was, like, it was a very specific type of alien. The Nordics that apparently look like blonde-haired, blue-eyed people were supposedly in contact with the Nazis during World War II. And so it was somebody in opposition to the Nordics who made contact with Eisenhower and aligned with the Americans.
Jesus.
So it's all wrapped up in different races of aliens.
Damn.
So
it is kind of like the aliens and the rebels and X-Files.
Yes.
We're going to go there.
Exactly.
And the bounty hunter was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed.
Right. He was probably a Nordic.
So, yeah, maybe he was a Nordic. We don't know.
So, I mean, that's a whole episode in and of itself, the different taxonomies of aliens. Because there's a surprising amount of, like, detail about, like, the types of aliens that exist out there.
Oh, my God.
It's wild.
It's intense. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sold on this.
No. I'm definitely not sold.
Not sold. I'm not convinced that it wasn't paranormal. I'm not convinced that it was. It's still significant. I think it needed to be talked about.
Yes.
Because, I think a lot of people know the name.
Origin of the phrase little green men.
Right. Yeah. That's how that got popularized.
Right.
Again, I still think it's kind of funny that it's known to be such a well-documented case. But, again, only because I think there were so many witnesses.
Right.
It wasn't one person or like two people out in the woods alone. It was like an entire family who, even if the kids were kind of hiding and even if some people weren't like interacting with them, they were still in the house. They were still hearing things and kind of seeing things and just witness to the whole situation. So
for 4 hours.
Yeah, for hours. So it's unique.
Yeah.
And again, it spawned a few other topics.
Right.
Which is sweet. So, yeah, episode 13.
Episode 13.
Enjoy this as, like I said, our last episode for a week. I guess technically 2 weeks. Yeah. But we're taking 1 week off. So no episode next week.
Right.
But 30th we'll be back. Episode 14. Don't know the topic yet.
Yep, we don't know.
We'll let you know. Or we won't.
Right.
I don't know. You should just listen.
Surprise.
Hey-o. So yeah. If you enjoyed this, let us know. Find us on social media.
Yep. Please comment. Or review,
yeah.
Write some words to us.
Tell us some things. If you have anything you want to see, like for Patreon, if you have any things you'd like to request, any merch you would like, request for the website, anything like that, let us know. But otherwise, we will see you in a couple weeks.
See you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
This has been
Unknowable. Love you.